Saturday mornings in my neighborhood usually began with silence and fresh coffee. I had just finished reviewing several property reports before stepping outside. Owning dozens of investment homes taught me one thing. Patience always beats loud arguments. That peaceful morning was about to become the beginning of the HOA's biggest mistake. A bright pink SUV stopped hard in front of my driveway, without warning. Karen Mitchell stepped out like she owned the entire neighborhood. She immediately began pointing toward my property, while speaking loudly into her phone. Before I could even introduce myself, she had already decided I was the problem. Karen informed me that I was violating HOA rules by parking my truck overnight. She insisted I remove it immediately or face heavy daily fines. I listened quietly without interrupting her once. She never bothered asking the one question that would have saved everyone a lot of trouble. When Karen finally paused, I politely explained that my property wasn't part of her HOA. She laughed as if I had just told the world's funniest joke. Several nearby homeowners gathered to watch the growing argument. Nobody realized the truth was already sitting inside the folder in my hands. Karen warned that refusing HOA authority could lead to police involvement. She proudly claimed the association controlled every home in the neighborhood. I simply nodded and let her finish every sentence. Sometimes the fastest way to expose arrogance is to let it keep talking. Karen pulled out her phone and dialed 911 without hesitation. She reported that a trespasser was refusing to obey HOA authority. The neighbors began recording everything with their phones. I stayed exactly where I was, knowing the facts would soon speak louder than opinions. Within minutes, 2 patrol vehicles rolled into the neighborhood. The officers approached professionally and asked both sides to explain. Karen confidently repeated that I was trespassing on HOA property. I quietly handed one officer my identification and property documents. The sergeant carefully reviewed the paperwork, without rushing. His expression slowly changed as he compared addresses and legal descriptions. Karen kept insisting the documents had to be fake. The officer asked Dispatch to verify everything through county property records. Dispatch responded with information no one expected to hear. The officer looked back at Karen before asking her to remain quiet for a moment. Even the neighbors stopped talking as the street fell completely silent. For the first time that morning, Karen looked uncertain. The officer confirmed that my home wasn't listed inside the HOA boundaries. Then he discovered something even more surprising in the county records. Everyone turned toward me, waiting for an explanation. The biggest revelation was only beginning. Karen orders the officers to remove Daniel immediately because she believes he is trespassing inside the HOA community. Daniel quietly smiles without showing any concern. Several homeowners begin recording the confrontation. Nobody realizes the situation is about to change completely. Emily arrives carrying a large portfolio filled with official county ownership records. She politely greets the officers before opening the documents. Karen immediately becomes nervous after seeing government seals. The neighbors stop talking and move closer. Emily spreads multiple ownership maps across the hood of a police cruiser. The officers carefully compare addresses with official records. Karen suddenly loses confidence as every page confirms Daniel's ownership. The neighborhood grows completely silent. The senior officer quietly explains that Daniel legally owns every property managed by the HOA. Karen refuses to believe it and continues arguing loudly. The neighbors exchange shocked expressions. Phones continue recording every second. Karen desperately demands another verification from county records. Emily calmly presents certified deeds bearing official signatures and seals. Even the officers nod in agreement. Karen's confident attitude begins to disappear. Residents slowly realize they've been paying HOA fees to someone with no authority over Daniel. Whispers spread throughout the neighborhood. Karen notices the growing doubt on every face. Her control starts collapsing. The officers politely inform Karen that Daniel has broken no law. They refuse to remove him from his own property. Karen freezes as the crowd begins questioning her decisions. Cameras remain focused on her reaction. Emily explains that every HOA restriction against Daniel is legally unenforceable. Karen realizes years of intimidation have come to an end. Several homeowners quietly applaud Daniel. The atmosphere completely changes. Karen slowly walks away, carrying her HOA files without saying another word. Residents stop following her and instead gather around Daniel. The neighborhood finally feels peaceful again. Respect replaces fear. Daniel thanks everyone for listening to the truth instead of believing assumptions. The residents appreciate his honesty and fairness. Emily smiles as the legal matter finally comes to an end. A new chapter begins for the neighborhood.